Ever get that feeling, like after a long day of back-to-back meetings and you're just completely talked out?
Oh, yeah, Cully.
But what about the opposite? What about when silence becomes kind of deafening?
Hmm.
That's what we're diving into today with this article by Farouk Gerich.
Okay.
He's a developer, actually switched over to marketing. But his story, it really gets at this whole idea of, finding work that really fits with who you are.
I like that.
He talks about his experience being a programmer, especially during the pandemic. And for him, that silence wasn't just a feeling, it was like his everyday reality.
That's so interesting because, when we think about the tech world, we often think fast-paced, collaborative, buzzing with energy.
Right.
But
Yeah.
his experience, it kind of reminds us that there's another side to it.
For sure.
Coding, I mean, it takes this intense focus, sometimes even like isolation.
Definitely. It makes you think. Because
Yeah.
there's so much talk about, open offices and team sprints and all that. But really, this whole deep dive into Farouk's article, it's about more than just, switching careers. It's about recognizing when maybe your work environment is just not clicking with your personality.
Right, yeah. And that's something I think that a lot of people can relate to, regardless, whatever your job is.
Absolutely. And Farouk's journey, it all begins with this kind of discomfort. Like, okay, he's a programmer, but he's looking for something more. So let's break it down. Let's see what we can learn from his story. And that feeling of, is this the right fit?
That's something Farooq really started grappling with when he thought about decision fatigue. Remember that time you spent, like, way too long agonizing over which streaming service to watch? Oh, yeah. Or trying to pick from a menu with, like, a whole novel of coffee options.
Exactly. And Farouk points out that programmers, they experience this on a whole other level. He's talking about like the constant barrage of choices, programming languages, frameworks, libraries.
And to clarify, for those who aren't programmers, imagine frameworks like pre-built houses.
Okay.
They provide a structure, but you still customize.
Hmm.
Libraries are more like furniture stores,
Yeah.
offering, ready-to-use components that you plug in.
That's a great way to put it. So you've got all these options, and they're all constantly evolving. Farouk emphasizes that this isn't just about, meeting deadlines. It's about like this pressure to constantly innovate, to always be using the newest, shiniest tool.
It's like the tech world is stuck on fast forward. And to Farouk's point, that can be mentally exhausting. But here's the thing. This doesn't just apply to programmers. Anyone in a field that's constantly changing where innovation is valued, they likely face this.
That's so true. So how do we deal with this constant pressure, this decision fatigue? Farouk's advice is pretty practical. He says, when it comes to work, stick to your trusted tools, the ones you know will get the job done. Want to experiment with something new? Save it for personal projects.
It's about creating boundaries.
Hmm.
And by doing that, as Farouk suggests, you give yourself permission to relax into the work that needs to get done right now.
So you're minimizing that decision fatigue, sticking with what, at work at least.
Yeah.
But Farouk, he takes it a step further. Yeah, and this is what I found really interesting. He talks about this connection between making decisions quickly and actually feeling more relaxed.
Really? See, to me, those two things sound like, I don't know, they'd clash.
Right. Like you'd think making a bunch of choices would be, I don't know, kind of stressful.
Yeah.
But what Farouk realized is that by making a choice, like any choice, it stops you from like overthinking and hesitating.
I see.
Almost like you're clearing out your brain's RAM, making room to really focus on what you're doing.
That makes sense.
And here's where Farouk makes this, I think, pretty insightful point about, about school. He says, we're basically trained from when we're kids to be scared of not knowing the answer.
Right. Like tests and quizzes, there's usually one right answer.
Exactly. And being afraid of not having that right answer, that can be really paralyzing, especially at work.
It can, absolutely. Hold you back from speaking up, maybe trying something new. Or just being okay with figuring things out as you go.
And that goes back to Farouk's bigger point about being okay with not knowing everything.
Yeah.
That's so important for growth.
Totally. It's like the whole idea of a growth mindset, right? Yeah. It's about realizing that not being sure, it's not a bad thing. It's a chance to learn, to change. And for Farouk, that meant changing careers, moving to marketing, finding a role that really fit.
It does make you think. Maybe we could all use a little bit of that not knowing in our lives. What about you? Anything in your work where you find yourself kind of getting stuck, searching for that one perfect solution? What if you tried being a little more open to the unknown? Maybe, just maybe, like Farouk, you might find it actually helps you grow. And hey, maybe even find a little more peace of mind, something to think about. Until next time on The Deep Dive.